The blood on Marcus Everett's hands had long since dried, but some nights he still woke feeling its sticky warmth between his fingers. 10 years since the border wars ended. 10 years since he'd hung up his sword and bought this patch of scrubland at the edge of civilization, and still the ghosts followed him home. He was mending the fence line when he saw her collapsed by the roadside, a heap of green skin and ragged leather that his first instinct screamed was a threat. His hand went to his hip where a blade used to hang, found nothing but air, and in that heartbeat of hesitation he saw she was not moving at all. Marcus approached slowly, boots crunching on the dry earth. The woman was an orc, no question about that. Green skin stretched over sharp cheekbones, small tusks protruding from her lower lip, pointed ears pressed flat against her skull. She was thin, desperately so, her ribs visible beneath torn clothing that might once have been warrior's gear. Her breathing was shallow and her lips were cracked and bleeding. A waterskin lay beside her, bone dry and split at the seam. He looked up and down the empty road, saw nothing but dust and scrub grass stretching to the horizon. Whatever had brought her here, she had traveled alone and she was dying. He should leave her. That was the smart thing, the safe thing. Orcs meant trouble. Even a decade after the wars, the prejudice ran deep as bedrock. His nearest neighbors, the Whitmore family 5 miles south, would burn his fields if they knew he'd helped one of the enemy. But Marcus had seen enough death to last 3 lifetimes, and he found his hands were already moving, checking her pulse, lifting her eyelids to see if consciousness remained behind them. Her eyes opened briefly, unfocused and fever-bright, green as spring grass. She made a sound that might have been a word in the orcish tongue, then her head lolled to the side. "Damn it," Marcus muttered, and he gathered her into his arms. She weighed less than she should have, all bone and dehydration. He carried her back to the ranch house, kicking open the door and laying her on the narrow cot he kept in the spare room. For the next hour he worked with the efficiency of old battlefield training, bringing water to her lips 1 careful spoonful at a time, cleaning the dust from her face and arms, checking for wounds beyond simple starvation. There were scars, old ones, the kind warriors collected. There was also a brand on her shoulder, a symbol he did not recognize, though the skin around it looked inflamed. She woke near sunset, thrashing suddenly with a warrior's instinct, and her hand caught his wrist hard enough to bruise. Her eyes locked on his face and he saw the terror there, the expectation of violence. "Easy," he said, keeping his voice low and calm. "You are safe. I am not going to hurt you." She released him slowly, her gaze darting around the small room, cataloging exits and weapons and threats. "Why?" Her voice was rough as gravel, and the word came out shaped strangely around her tusks. "Why would a human help? Because you were dying on my road and I have seen enough corpses for 1 lifetime." Marcus stepped back, giving her space. "There is water there, and I will bring food if you can keep it down. Slow, though. Your stomach will rebel if you rush it." She stared at him with naked suspicion, but her hand crept toward the water cup. She drank in tiny sips, disciplined despite her obvious thirst, and Marcus felt a flicker of respect. Whoever she was, she had training. "I am Marcus," he offered. "This is my land. You are at the eastern edge of what used to be human territory, about 2 days' ride from the neutral zone." "Greta Stonebreaker," she replied after a long moment. "Formerly of the Iron Ridge clan." The way she said formerly carried weight, old pain. "I am an exile. That explains some things. Orc clans did not cast out their own lightly." Marcus nodded and fetched a bowl of thin broth from the pot he kept simmering on the cookstove. Greta accepted it with both hands, drinking slowly, and color began to return to her gray-tinged skin. When the bowl was empty, she set it aside and met his eyes directly. "I have no coin to pay you. I have nothing but my word, but I give it. I will repay this debt." "Not necessary," Marcus said, though he could see arguing would be pointless. Orcs took honor seriously, more seriously than most humans he had known. "Rest tonight. We can talk in the morning." He left her then, closing the door partway, and went to sit on his porch in the gathering darkness. The stars came out one by one, the same stars that had watched over battlefields where he had killed her people and they had killed his. War made everyone into monsters. He had learned that the hard way. When he finally went to his own bed, he wedged a chair under his doorknob, old paranoia reasserting itself. Trust was one thing. Stupidity was another. Morning came with the smell of smoke and cooking meat. Marcus woke to find Greta in his kitchen, tending the fire with the ease of someone who had spent a lifetime around hearths and campfires. She had washed as best she could and braided her long black hair, and in the daylight he could see she was younger than he had first thought, perhaps 25 at most. She looked up when he entered, her expression wary. "I found eggs in your henhouse and there was bacon in the cold box. I hope that is acceptable. More than acceptable." Marcus was not used to anyone else cooking in his space, but the food smelled good and his stomach reminded him he had skipped dinner. They ate in awkward silence until he finally said, "Where were you headed? When you collapsed, I mean." Greta set down her fork, her jaw tight. "Nowhere. Anywhere. Away from the clans. I was cast out 3 weeks ago for refusing to raid a human settlement. The chieftain wanted to take children as hostages to force a trade negotiation. I said it was dishonorable. He said I was weak." She touched the brand on her shoulder unconsciously. "This is the mark of a traitor. No orc will take me in. No human will trust me. So I walk until I find a place that will have me, or until I die." The bitterness in her voice was so familiar Marcus felt it like an echo in his own chest. How many soldiers had he known who could not go home after the things they had seen and done? How many had wandered the roads looking for a place where the nightmares did not follow? "You can stay here," he heard himself say. "For a while at least, until you are stronger." She looked at him like he had spoken in an alien language. "You would let me stay? An orc, on your land? This ranch is too much for one person. I could use the help if you are offering. Fences need mending, the well needs deepening, and I have 40 head of cattle who would love to trample me to death if they thought they could get away with it." He shrugged, trying to make it sound casual, like it did not matter. "You work, you eat. Fair trade." Greta's eyes narrowed. "Your neighbors will not like it." "My neighbors do not like me much anyway. I keep to myself." That was true enough. The other ranchers in the territory thought him odd, a war veteran who did not drink or brag or join their hunting parties. They left him alone and he returned the favor. "If you want to stay, stay. If you want to leave, leave. But you will do it with food in your belly and strength in your legs." She nodded slowly, something shifting in her expression. "1 month," she said. "I will work for 1 month to repay your kindness, then I will go." Marcus did not argue, though he suspected a month would not be nearly enough to discharge whatever debt she felt she owed. Orcs were stubborn that way. 1 month, he agreed, and they shook on it, her grip strong and calloused against his palm. The first week was strange. Greta worked like 3 people, up before dawn and laboring until the sun set, attacking every task with grim determination. She fixed the sagging barn door, reinforced the chicken coop against foxes, and helped Marcus wrestle a stubborn cow out of a mud hole with the kind of raw strength that reminded him why orcs had been such terrifying opponents in battle. She spoke little, and always with that careful formality, like she was waiting for him to remember he was supposed to hate her. Marcus found himself watching her when he thought she was not looking, The way she moved with unconscious grace despite her size and strength. The way her face softened when she fed the chickens. The rare flash of her smile when one of the barn cats rubbed against her ankles. She was beautiful in a way he had never let himself consider during the wars, when orcs had been the enemy and nothing more. On the 8th day, neighbors came. Marcus was hauling water from the well when he saw the dust cloud approaching, 3 riders coming fast. The Whitmore brothers, Samuel and Thomas, with their father Jeremiah bringing up the rear. Marcus set down the buckets and walked out to meet them, positioning himself between the riders and the barn where Greta was working. "Morning," he called, keeping his tone neutral. "Marcus." Jeremiah Whitmore was a hard man, weathered by decades on the frontier. His eyes scanned the property with sharp suspicion. "We heard you have an orc on your land. That true?" No point in lying. Small communities had eyes everywhere. "She was dying by the roadside. I gave her food and water." "She is working off the debt." Marcus crossed his arms. "Is there a problem? Is there a problem?" Samuel, the older son, spat into the dirt. "Are you insane?" "She is an orc, Marcus. They killed hundreds of our people. They burned settlements. You fought in the wars. You know what they are." "I know what war makes people into," Marcus replied evenly. "She is not a threat. She is a worker, nothing more. Send her away." Jeremiah's voice carried the weight of command, the tone of a man used to being obeyed. "We do not want her kind here. If she stays, you will have trouble. The other ranchers will not stand for it." Marcus felt his jaw tighten, old rage stirring. He had spent 10 years trying to bury that anger to build something peaceful. "This is my land, Jeremiah. I will decide who stays and who goes." The 3 men exchanged glances. Thomas, the younger son, looked almost apologetic. "Marcus, be reasonable. What if she is a scout? What if more come? Then more come and we deal with it, but I will not throw out someone who needs help because of what she is." He met Jeremiah's glare without flinching. "Now if you gentlemen are done, I have work to do." For a moment he thought they might push it, might try to ride past him to the barn. Then Jeremiah turned his horse, his expression cold. "You are making a mistake, Everett. A bad one. Do not come crying to us when it bites you." The 3 of them rode away, leaving a wake of dust and tension. Greta emerged from the barn, a hammer still in her hand. "They will come back," she said quietly, "with more men. They will force me to leave or they will kill me. Then we will deal with it." Marcus turned to face her. "I meant what I said. You are welcome here." She studied him for a long moment, her green eyes searching his face for something. "Why are you doing this? I am no one to you, just an orc who happened to fall on your road." Marcus did not have a good answer, or at least not one he was ready to speak aloud. "Maybe I am tired of letting fear make my decisions," he said finally. "The war is over, has been for a decade. At some point we have to stop fighting." Greta's expression softened just slightly. "Not everyone believes that." "No," Marcus agreed. "Not everyone, but I do." He gestured back toward the barn. "Come on. That door frame is not going to fix itself." They worked in companionable silence for the rest of the afternoon, and something unspoken settled between them, some fragile understanding. When evening came, Marcus cooked dinner, a simple stew with vegetables from his struggling garden. Greta ate hungrily and then, to his surprise, she began to talk. Small things at first. Stories of her childhood in the Iron Ridge clan, of learning to fight and hunt, of a sister who had died in a raid 5 years back. Marcus found himself sharing in return, telling her about his farm family, about joining the army at 18, about the battles that still haunted his dreams. "You regret it?" Greta asked as they watched the sun set from the porch, 2 mugs of weak tea steaming in their hands. "The fighting." "Every day." Marcus stared at the horizon. I killed people who probably had families, who probably did not want to be there any more than I did. But at the time, I thought I was protecting my home. I thought it was necessary. I understand that. Greta's voice was soft. I killed humans too. I told myself they were invaders, that we were defending our territory. Now I wonder if any of it mattered. The borders are the same. The clans still raid. Humans still hate us. Nothing changed except now there are graves. They sat in silence as the stars emerged, and Marcus felt a strange kinship with this orc woman who had stumbled into his life. They were both refugees from a war that had taken more than it could ever give back, both trying to build something new from the ashes. The second week brought its own rhythm. Greta's strength returned fully, and she threw herself into projects Marcus had been putting off for months. She dug out the old irrigation ditch, hauled stones for a new retaining wall, and even helped him break a particularly stubborn young horse with a patience that surprised him. In the evenings they talked more easily, the awkward formality giving way to something that felt almost like friendship. Marcus found himself looking forward to her company, to the sound of her laughter when one of the goats tried to eat his hat, to the focused intensity of her expression when she was solving a problem. He was also increasingly aware of her in ways that had nothing to do with friendship. The way the evening light caught in her dark hair, the strength in her hands, the rare soft smile that transformed her face from stern to radiant. It was dangerous territory, and he knew it. Whatever was growing between them could not lead anywhere good. The world outside his ranch would never accept it. On the 15th day, Greta asked about the scars on his back. They had been working in the field, shirts soaked with sweat, when his had ridden up, and she had seen the crisscrossing marks. Marcus had tensed, old shame rising, but her question had been gentle, curious rather than judging. "I was captured during a raid in the 3rd year of the war," he told her, his voice carefully flat. "Held for 2 weeks before my unit found me. The orc commander liked to use a whip." Greta had gone very still. "I am sorry that was done to you. It was war." Marcus forced a shrug. "Everyone suffered." "That does not make it right." She hesitated, then slowly lifted the hem of her own shirt to show a mass of scar tissue across her lower ribs. "A human soldier caught me when I was 16. He did not use a whip, but he had a knife, and he thought an orc girl would be entertaining before he killed her. My war band found us. He died. I lived, but I carry the reminder." Marcus felt fury rise in his chest, hot and righteous, for the girl she had been and the cruelty inflicted on her. "That should not have happened to you. We agree then. Some things should not happen, regardless of what skin you wear." She let her shirt fall and met his eyes. "You are a good man, Marcus Everett. Better than most humans I have met. Better than many orcs." It was the first real compliment she had given him, and Marcus felt warmth spread through his chest. "You are not so bad yourself, Greta Stonebreaker." They smiled at each other, and for a moment the air felt charged with something electric and terrifying and wonderful. Then Greta looked away, clearing her throat. "We should finish this fence before dark." "Right. Yes, the fence." Marcus turned back to his work, but his hands were unsteady and his heart was beating too fast. That night Marcus lay awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to untangle the knot of feelings in his chest. He cared for Greta. That much was undeniable. But caring was a gentle word for what he felt. He wanted to keep her safe, to make her smile, to know everything about her. He wanted to wake up and find her still in his house, in his life. He wanted things that were impossible. She was planning to leave. 1 month, she had said, and they were halfway through. The thought of her walking back out onto those dusty roads, alone and hunted, made his stomach twist. But what could he offer? A life of isolation on a ranch where neighbors would shun them both. where she would be in constant danger from humans who saw her as a monster. He must have fallen asleep eventually because the next thing he knew, Greta was shaking him awake, her face pale in the pre-dawn darkness. "Marcus, get up, something is wrong." He was on his feet instantly, old soldier instincts taking over. "What is it?" "Smoke. North of here. And I heard horns, the kind orc war bands use." Her voice was tight with controlled fear. "I think my old clan is raiding nearby." Marcus cursed and grabbed his old sword from where it hung on the wall, the blade he had sworn never to draw again. "How many?" "The horns suggest a major raid. Maybe 50 warriors, maybe more." Greta was already moving toward the door. "I have to go. If they find me here, they will kill you for sheltering a traitor." "Wait." Marcus caught her arm. "Where will you go? You said yourself no one will take you in." "I will figure something out. I always do." But her eyes betrayed her, showing the lie. She had nowhere to go. She would die out there, either from her own people or from starvation or from humans who would not hesitate to kill an orc on sight. Marcus made a decision in that heartbeat, the kind of decision that changed everything. "Stay. Hide in the cellar. If they come here, I will say I have seen nothing." "Marcus, they will search, and if they find you have been hiding me, they will make an example of you." Greta's voice broke slightly. "I do not want your death on my conscience, and I do not want yours on mine." He squeezed her arm gently. "Trust me, please." She searched his face, and whatever she saw there made her nod. "The cellar. But if they come, if it looks bad, you will give me up. Promise me." "I promise," Marcus lied, and he led her to the hidden cellar entrance beneath the kitchen floorboards. She climbed down into the darkness, and he lowered the door, covering it with the rug and the heavy table. Then he went outside to wait. The sun rose red and angry over a landscape painted with smoke. Marcus could see the flames now, maybe 3 miles north, probably the Thornton homestead. His gut clenched. The Thorntons had children, 3 little ones under the age of 10. He wanted to ride out to help, but he also knew his duty was here, protecting Greta. So he waited, sword in hand, as the morning stretched on. They came near midday, a scouting party of 6 orc warriors on massive warhorses. They were armed and armored in the traditional style, all leather and iron and bone trophies. The leader was a massive male with a scarred face and a necklace of what looked like human finger bones. He reined in before Marcus's porch and surveyed the ranch with cold calculation. "Human. Have you seen a traitor orc come through here? Female, marked with the sign of exile." Marcus kept his face carefully neutral. "I have not seen any orcs except you and your men." The leader's eyes narrowed. "You are lying. I can smell it on you. She was seen on this road 2 weeks ago, and there is nowhere else she could have sheltered." He dismounted, and the other warriors followed suit. "We will search your property. If you are hiding her, you will die slowly. Search all you want." Marcus did not move from the porch steps. "You will find nothing." They tore through his house like a storm, breaking furniture, scattering belongings, searching every room and closet. Marcus stood outside, heart hammering, praying they would not think to check under the kitchen floor. Minutes stretched into eternity. Then one of the warriors called out, and Marcus's blood turned to ice. He ran inside to find them rolling back the rug, exposing the cellar door. The scarred leader smiled, showing tusks. "Nothing, you said. Shall we see what nothing looks like?" They hauled Greta up into the light. She came fighting, landing a solid punch that broke one warrior's nose before they subdued her. When she saw Marcus, her expression crumpled with despair. "I told you to give me up," she said hoarsely. "I do not break my word." Marcus raised his sword, knowing it was futile but unable to stand by. "Let her go." The leader laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. "Foolish human. You die for sheltering a traitor, and she dies for being one." He drew his own blade, massive and serrated. "Kill him, make it hurt." Two warriors advanced on Marcus. He got his blade up, parried the first strike, but there were too many and they were too strong. A blow caught him in the ribs, another across his shoulder. He went down hard, tasting blood, vision swimming. Through the haze, he saw Greta screaming, struggling against the hands that held her. Then the world exploded into chaos. The door burst open and warriors poured in, but these were not part of the raiding party. These were different orcs, wearing the symbols of a dozen different clans, and they crashed into the raiders with ferocious intensity. Marcus saw the scarred leader go down under 3 attackers, saw blood spray across his walls, saw Greta break free and snatch up a fallen sword. The fight was over in minutes. The raiders were dead or fleeing, and Marcus's small house was full of orc warriors who should not have been there. He struggled to sit up, pain screaming through his ribs, and tried to make sense of it. An orc woman stepped forward, older than Greta, with silver streaks in her black hair and eyes that held deep authority. "Marcus Everett," she said, her accent thick but her words clear. "We come on behalf of Greta Stonebreaker. We come to repay a debt. I do not understand." Marcus coughed, tasted more blood. "Who are you?" "I am Hildegard Strongarm of the Northern clans, and these warriors represent many clans, all who heard what Greta did, refusing to raid children, all who believe she was right and the old chieftain was wrong." Hildegard knelt beside him, examining his wounds with a healer's eye. When word spread that a human was sheltering her, that he stood against his own neighbors to protect an exile, we decided we must see this for ourselves. We have been watching your ranch for 3 days. Greta pushed through the crowd, dropping to her knees beside Marcus. "You are hurt. I am sorry, I am so sorry, I should have left, I should have—" "Shut up," Marcus said, but gently, and he caught her hand. "I told you, I do not break my word." Tears tracked down her green cheeks, and she pressed his hand to her forehead in a gesture he did not understand but felt the weight of. Hildegard watched them with knowing eyes. "You honor bonded to this human," she said to Greta, and it was not a question. "You gave him your oath and your heart." "I did not mean to," Greta whispered. "But yes, I did." Hildegard nodded slowly. "Then we have a proposition, if you both will hear it." Marcus let them help him to a chair and bind his wounds while Hildegard explained. "The orc clans were fracturing," she said. "The old ways of endless raiding and warfare were failing. Too many young ones dead, too many resources spent on conflict. There was a growing movement among the clans, particularly in the north, to seek a different path. Peace, or at least coexistence. But peace required trust, and trust required examples of humans and orcs working together. You too could be that example," Hildegard said, looking between Marcus and Greta. "A human veteran and an orc exile making a life together. Others would see it as possible. Both sides would see." "And if we refuse?" Marcus asked, though his heart was already answering. "Then you refuse and we leave you in peace. But know this, Marcus Everett. There are humans who will come for you now for helping an orc, and there are orcs who will come for Greta for her betrayal of the old ways. Together with the support of the new clans, you would be protected. Apart, you are both vulnerable." Marcus looked at Greta, really looked at her, saw the hope and fear warring in her eyes. "What do you want?" he asked her. "Not what you think you should do, what do you want?" "I want to stay," she said, voice breaking. "I want to stay here with you. I want to wake up and feed the chickens and fix fences and listen to your stories. I want all of it, and I know it is impossible, but I cannot stop wanting it." Something in Marcus's chest loosened, some knot he had been carrying for 10 years or maybe his whole life. "It is not impossible, difficult, yes, dangerous, absolutely, but not impossible." He turned to Hildegard. "What exactly are you proposing?" Hildegard smiled, showing tusks. "An alliance. Your ranch becomes a neutral ground, a place where humans and orcs can trade and talk without fear. Greta leads the orc delegation, you lead the human one. We provide warriors to protect the land. You provide the example that peace can work. It will not be easy. Many on both sides will oppose it. But it is a start. Marcus thought of the Whitmores, of the other ranchers who already hated him, thought of the hard years ahead, the struggles and the danger. Then he thought of Greta's smile, of her laugh, of the way she had made his empty house feel like a home. "I am in," he said, "if Greta is." "I am," Greta said immediately. "I am in for all of it." Hildegard clasped their hands together, binding them in the orcish way. "Then it is done. We will send word to the human territories, seeking those who might support this peace. And we will spread the story of the human who fed a starving orc, and the orc who gave her loyalty in return." She stood, gesturing to her warriors. "We leave guards here, 20 warriors to patrol the land. The rest come with me. There is much to do." The orcs filed out, all except for a group of stern-faced warriors who immediately began setting up a perimeter. Marcus and Greta were left alone in the wreckage of the house, holding hands like it was the only thing keeping them tethered to the earth. "This is insane," Marcus said. "Completely insane," Greta agreed. "We are going to fail, probably miserably, most likely. Everyone is going to hate us, without question." Greta turned to face him fully, her green eyes bright. "But I would rather fail with you than succeed with anyone else." Marcus leaned forward, ignoring the pain in his ribs, and kissed her. It was clumsy and awkward, their mouths shaped differently, her tusks bumping his lips. It was also the best kiss of his life, full of promise and hope and a defiance that sang in his bones. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Greta was grinning. "That was interesting." "We can practice," Marcus suggested, and she laughed, the sound filling the broken house with light. The next dawn came with a sight that would be talked about for years. 200 orc warriors stood in neat ranks around Marcus's ranch, their standards flying in the morning breeze. They were not there to raid or threaten. They were there to protect, to make a statement that could be seen for miles. When the Whitmores and a dozen other ranchers rode up, armed and angry and ready to drive out the orc presence, they found themselves facing an army. But they also found Marcus Everett standing on his porch, Greta Stonebreaker at his side, with a white flag of parley raised high. Hildegard Strongarm stepped forward to meet the humans, her voice carrying across the distance. "We come in peace. We seek to establish a neutral ground here, a place where human and orc can trade and talk. We ask that you hear our proposal." The humans were suspicious, hostile, hands on weapons. Jeremiah Whitmore glared at Marcus like he was a traitor to his entire species. But Hildegard was patient, and she explained the same thing she had told Marcus. About the fracturing clans, about the desire for a new way, about the need for examples of coexistence. Some of the humans spat and rode away, but others, weary of war and loss, stayed to listen. Thomas Whitmore, the younger brother, was the first to speak. "How do we know this is not a trick? How do we know you will not slaughter us the moment we lower our guard?" "You do not," Hildegard said bluntly. "Just as we do not know you will not do the same to us. Trust must be built, and that takes time, but it must start somewhere. Let it start here with a human who showed mercy and an orc who chose honor. Let it start with them." Marcus stepped forward, Greta's hand in his. "I fought in the wars, I killed orcs, I hated orcs, but I was wrong. Not about the individuals who hurt me and mine, but about all of them. Greta is not my enemy. She is a good person who was punished for doing the right thing. And if we keep seeing each other as monsters, we will keep creating monsters. I am tired of it. If any of you are tired too, stay. Help us build something better." The silence stretched on. Then, to Marcus's shock, old William Thatcher, who had lost 2 sons in the war, dismounted and walked forward. "My boys died for nothing," he said, his voice rough with grief. "If there is any chance their deaths could lead to peace instead of more killing, I will take it." He looked at Greta. "You swear you are here in good faith." "I swear it on my honor and my life," Greta replied, meeting his eyes. "I will not betray that trust." William nodded slowly. "Then I will give you a chance, Orc, but know that I will be watching." "That is all we ask," Hildegard said. 3 other ranchers agreed to stay and talk. The rest rode away in disgust, but it was a start. Over the following days, a strange new community began to form around Marcus's ranch. Orc warriors helped repair the damage from the raid, working alongside wary human farmers. Greta demonstrated her skills in animal husbandry, helping William Thatcher with a sick cow. Marcus brokered the first trade agreement, orc ironwork for human grain. It was fragile and tentative, full of misunderstandings and lingering hatred, but it was something. At night, Marcus and Greta retreated to the house they were slowly rebuilding together. They talked about the future, about the impossibility of what they were attempting. They also stopped talking and explored the physical side of their relationship, learning each other's bodies with tenderness and humor. Greta was strong enough to hurt him accidentally, and Marcus's human stamina amused her. But they made it work, the same way they made everything else work, with patience and communication and a love that grew deeper every day. A month after Hildegard's arrival, Greta made a formal request. She wanted to marry Marcus in the Orcish way, a ceremony that would bind them as partners before both their peoples. Marcus agreed immediately, though he had no idea what the ceremony entailed. It turned out to involve ritual combat, sacred oaths, and a truly alarming amount of blood from shallow cuts on their palms, mixed and bound with cloth. When Hildegard pronounced them bonded, the orc warriors roared approval, and the handful of humans who had come to witness applauded cautiously. That night, lying in bed with his wife pressed against his side, Marcus marveled at the strangeness of his life. "A year ago I was alone," he murmured, "talking to my chickens and trying to forget the war. Now I am married to an orc and running a peace initiative. Regretting your choices?" Greta asked, a teasing lilt in her voice. "Not even a little." Marcus kissed her forehead. "Though I do miss when my biggest problem was a broken fence." "The fence is still broken," Greta pointed out. "We should probably fix that." "Tomorrow," Marcus said. "Tomorrow we fix everything. Tonight, I just want to be here with you." They fell asleep tangled together, and when morning came they faced it as they faced everything else, side by side. The peace initiative grew slowly over the following months. More orcs came from the northern clans, curious about this strange human-orc settlement. More humans arrived too, some seeking trade, others seeking a fresh start away from communities that had never accepted them. A few interspecies couples appeared, timid and hopeful, looking for a place where they would not be hunted. Marcus and Greta welcomed them all, and the ranch expanded into a proper settlement with houses and a meeting hall and a market square where goods changed hands without bloodshed. There were setbacks. A group of human extremists tried to burn down the new construction and had to be driven off by orc guards. An orc raiding party from a southern clan attacked a supply caravan and nearly destroyed the fragile trust that had been built. Marcus spent weeks mediating disputes, settling arguments over property and insults and cultural misunderstandings. Greta trained a militia of mixed humans and orcs, teaching them to fight together rather than against each other. It was exhausting work, often thankless, and there were nights when both of them wondered if they were fools for trying, but there were also victories. The first human-orc trade agreement that did not involve weapons. The first child born to a mixed couple, a little girl with green-tinged skin and her father's blue eyes, who both communities celebrated. The first winter festival where human and orc traditions mixed into something new and beautiful. Each small success was a brick in the foundation they were building, proof that coexistence was possible. On the anniversary of the day Marcus had found Greta by the roadside, they stood together on the porch and watched the sun rise over a landscape transformed. Where there had been only his small ranch, there was now a bustling settlement. Where there had been only suspicion and hate, there was now cautious friendship. It was not perfect. It would never be perfect, but it was real and it was theirs. "You think it will last?" Greta asked, leaning into his shoulder. "I think we will make it last," Marcus replied. "However long it takes, however hard it gets, we will make it work." Greta smiled, that radiant smile that still made his heart stutter. "You know, when I collapsed on that road, I thought I was dying. I thought my life was over. And instead it was just beginning." She turned and kissed him, and Marcus wrapped his arms around his wife, his partner, his unexpected salvation. The woman he had fed by the roadside had become the foundation of everything he now held dear. Her warriors had become his allies. Her dream of peace had become his purpose. Behind them, the settlement stirred to life. Smoke rose from chimneys, both human and orc. Children of both species played in the streets, their laughter mixing. In the market, a human blacksmith worked beside an orc metalsmith, their styles blending into something unique. It was not the world Marcus had expected to build when he bought this ranch 10 years ago. It was better. As the months turned into years, the settlement grew into a town, and the town grew into a symbol. Delegations came from human kingdoms and orc territories, skeptical but intrigued. Trade routes opened. More mixed couples arrived, and a second generation was born. Children who did not remember the wars and saw no reason why green skin and pink skin could not live side by side. Marcus and Greta became elders, respected leaders whose story was told and retold until it became legend. The legend went like this. Once, a human veteran found an orc woman dying by the roadside. He fed her when he should have left her. She stayed when she should have run. And from that single act of mercy, from that refusal to let old hatreds dictate new choices, an entire community was born. Love had bridged a gap that war could not cross. Kindness had achieved what armies could not. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Marcus and Greta stood before the whole town for a renewal of their vows. They were older now, their bodies marked by the years and the hard work of building a dream. But their hands were steady as they clasped them together, their voices clear as they spoke the words that bound them. Human and orc, veteran and exile, two people who should have been enemies and instead became partners. When the ceremony ended and the celebration began, Marcus pulled Greta close and whispered in her ear, "I would do it all again. Every hard day, every fight, every moment. I would do it all again for this." "So would I," Greta whispered back. "Thank you for feeding a starving orc woman by the roadside. Thank you for changing my life." "Thank you for letting me," Marcus replied, and they danced under the stars, surrounded by the community they had built from nothing but hope and stubborn refusal to give up. The next dawn came as it always did, with light spreading across the land. But this time, the 200 warriors who had once ringed the ranch in protection were spread throughout the town, living and working and building alongside humans. The walls that had once divided were coming down, one brick at a time, one friendship at a time, one love story at a time. And it had all begun with a simple choice, a moment of compassion when hate would have been easier. Marcus Everett had fed a starving orc woman, and in return she had given him everything. A purpose, a partner, a future worth fighting for. Together, they had proven that peace was possible, that love could cross any divide, that the war was truly over if they chose to lay down their weapons and build instead of destroy. The story of Marcus and Greta became a foundation myth for the town, told to children of both species as an example of what was possible when people chose mercy over vengeance, understanding over prejudice. And every year on the anniversary of that first meeting, the whole community gathered to celebrate not just their leaders, but the choice they represented. The choice to see past what divided them and focus on what united them. The choice to be better than the past demanded. Marcus and Greta lived long lives, surrounded by friends and family and the thriving town they had built from nothing. When they were old and gray, they still held hands on the porch each evening, watching the sunset over a world they had helped to change. And when people asked them the secret to what they had accomplished, they always gave the same answer. "We chose each other," Greta would say. "Every day, in every way, we chose each other. And we chose hope over fear," Marcus would add, "even when it was hard, especially when it was hard." It was a simple truth, but it was enough. It had always been enough. One act of kindness, one moment of courage, one human who fed a starving orc woman by the roadside and changed the world, and they lived happily ever after together until the end of their days.